It's going to get worse before it gets better. My wife said that to me over a week ago. And I was kind of waiting to see if our governor extended our stay home, stay safe executive order before I come up with something worth publishing. I've kind of dabbled around at this because I thought that phrase alone warranted a COVID-19 video, but yet I really didn't know what to put in there. You see, because when I say it's going to get worse before it gets better, it sounds like I have no hope. And that's not true. I do have hope. I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. But I just don't know how long it's going to take to get down to the end of that tunnel. And a lot of people don't know. Our scientists don't know. Our doctors don't know. Our politicians don't know. The people that own the companies that we work for, they don't know. You know, I get a weekly update from my company about what's going on as far as what my job, where my job is at, or where actually everybody who works there, because we're all furloughed. We're considered unnecessary, so we're furloughed. There are people right now that are doing necessary work, that are working crazy overtime, and some of them are complaining. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you're probably not used to working this much, or you're probably not used to dealing with the angry public as much. But be glad that you are in a necessary job. Some of these people are getting hourly wage increases, weekly bonuses, things like that. They're being told that if they feel sick, they can stay home and are going to get paid. Our governor put into law that you can't fire somebody if they refuse to come to work because they're afraid they're going to get it because somebody at work came down with it. So, I mean, there are a lot of protections in place, and they're trying to compensate these people. It's more or less hazardous duty pay. And I know that isn't going to help somebody at the end of the day if they die from this. But we need certain things, like for the banks to be open, and for the pharmacies to be open, and the grocery stores to be open. So those people are making money right now, and they don't have to worry about relying on the unemployment system. I can tell you, I filed unemployment 3 weeks ago, and I finally got my money, my first payment. And there was no federal money in there. So it's significantly less than what I normally make, and I've somehow got to pay my bills on that. Now, I'm not somebody who likes to be on unemployment. I don't like any sort of government assistance. But I also know I've been paying into this system for decades, and I've barely taken out of it. There are lots of people that have been scamming the system and milking the system and cheating the system and haven't been putting anything into it, or haven't put anything into it for very long, or what they have put into it, it ain't very much. So in some ways, I guess you could say I feel somewhat entitled to this because of the situation, but really, I'd rather be at work. I would really rather be at work. I want this to be over as soon as possible. They've canceled the school year for the end of the year, and they've left it up to the individual districts to figure out what they're going to do. I think my district is going to do more of the online classroom stuff that they've been doing. But right now the kids are on spring break, which is kind of like, what's the difference? Because they're stuck at home anyhow. And we've been trying to take more and more measures at home to try to fall in line with the order. The order got extended yesterday. It's going to last till the end of the month. At that point, they may extend it further. We don't know. And it's more strict than what it was. There have been people who have had their civil liberties violated. But there's also people out there absolutely disregarding the order. There are people that are going nuts and overblowing the situation and calling on their neighbors for simply going to the grocery store or walking their dog. Or the father and daughter that were playing catch in an empty park and the dad got arrested. You know, you hear stories like that. But on the other hand, there are people that are throwing parties. They're having birthday parties and inviting people over. They're throwing barbecues or house parties and inviting people over. I think part of the reason that it's so bad in some of these inner city neighborhoods might be because of the outright defiance you've seen on TV in some of these cities. And, you know, I mean, in some places, they've closed down the pot shops, right? So now people are going back to the drug houses and congregating. People are bored. They can't go out and do the things they like to do. So they're congregating at the grocery stores and the hardware stores instead of actually being there for necessary business. And people in general are filthy. We can tell people to wash their hands all we want. When this is over, how many people who never washed their hands before are going to start taking up the habit of washing their hands? They're just not. Scientists are saying that the numbers haven't peaked yet. So until they peak, we're not going to start to see them drop. And at that point, from what I understand, from what our governor said, they don't have an exit strategy for this. And they really need one. she did say we're definitely not going to just turn a switch and everything's going to be back to normal the day the order ends. We're going to gradually bring things back, but we just don't know in what order and how and what and who. And I get that. But dang, you've had some time. Come up with an exit strategy. You know, we saw what happened in the Second Gulf War when they didn't have an exit strategy, right? So I see it all around. I see people making this worse. I see the government making this worse. I see the media making this worse. I see social media making this worse. But it will get better. Eventually, they'll come up with a vaccine or a treatment that actually works that they can get out to the masses. Eventually, the tests will be everywhere. Eventually, they'll start letting us go back to work. Eventually, they'll lift these stay-home orders. Eventually, all this stuff will happen. I just don't know when. So for right now, it is going to get worse before it's going to get better. But it will get better.